I'm new to this, but in my thoughts here, a lot of our problem doesn't necessarily exist in the White House because it has a term limit. The president only can be elected for so many years, and he has to be revoted. But our actual problem is in the House and the Congress, where there's not a term limit. You've got guys sitting up there that are 20, 25, 30 years, and they continue to run bad laws through because of their clout. How do we go about getting those people out and getting term limits set so that we don't have this problem? Even if it's not a 2-year or 4-year, you could keep the senior advisors in there and have a rotation going so there was always new blood in there so we could get the things that we're after actually going through. How do we go about that?
If you go to the web, there's something I think called termlimitstat.org or termlimits.com, and it's run by a guy who lives in New York named Howie Rich, who I've known for 20 or 30 years, and he's got this national organization which is Term Limits, and so they have been behind establishing term limits for representatives in the state of California and in 25 or 30 states, so that now there is a compulsory turnover in legislatures in many state capitals. And a lot of surveys show that the longer a legislator has been in office, the more likely he is to vote for more appropriations. So that although state legislatures don't perform very well, where they have term limits, they probably perform better. There was an attempt to apply state term limit laws to U.S. congressmen and senators, and that was beaten down, that the federal government has control over their own elections and how long people can serve. So it would need a federal law to limit terms in order to limit the terms of people in Congress. So, and I don't know of any group that's trying to do that, but if you're interested in the whole term limits thing, look it up on the web and get in touch with them. And they're an activist organization, and they've got some local chapters, and they've got programs. They've got some money. So that's I think the place to go to do something.
What would you personally like to see a term limit as far as terms for both the representative and the senator? Since the senator's 6 years and the representative's only 2.
I don't know.
Personally, what would you think would be a good
like
number?
12 years for senators.
12 years.
6 years or 8 years for congressmen.
Okay.
The other problem with term limits is the government is a complicated thing, getting more complicated every day, so that a lot of legislators going to Sacramento don't have the foggiest idea what's going on. So they turn to their staffs, and the staffs don't have any. I mean, some legislators have a business or a life outside of being in the legislature, but the staff probably doesn't have any life outside being the staff and the staff, and therefore they're even more devoted to government programs than the legislators are. So generally I think term limits are a good idea, but I don't think they're a silver bullet to do everything. Yes?
Some pessimists have said that the recession we're in may approach or even exceed the sort of thing we saw in the Great Depression. Given that the Great Depression was ended by a war, right? The beginning of a war tends to boost the economy, and we're not going to get into the economics of that, but after a couple of years, that boost tends to fail, and we start sliding into another recession.
No, but it does stop unemployment when you draft 11 million people in the army. There's a lot less unemployment.
But if there's given that we're already in wars and the economic boons are not to be gained, if this recession does approach the levels that some fear, what course of action do you think would be appropriate to take to counteract the recession, and on a more focused level, what could we do at a local level to help counteract the recession?
Okay, on the national level, I was really talking about that a little while ago. You let the failed companies fail, and you let the economy rebuild itself to existing needs and demands. All of us save a little bit more money and spend a little bit more money and reduce the level of debt in society. all of us look around for something very productive to do with our lives, which will help make the whole society more productive. You do all the things you can do to increase productivity because we're the people who produce it all. And making the government bigger isn't going to make the whole system more productive, it's going to make the whole system less productive.
Well, I think it produces more paper, right?
Right. Produces more paper, and it produces more people whose job it is to redirect money rather than to produce goods and services. So that the program of lower taxes, less government regulation, no new government programs is going to get the real economy back faster than anything else. So that's what you do on a national level. What you can do on the local level, well, if you've got a house, you've got something, you can pay down your mortgage. You've got credit card balances. You can pay down the credit card balances. That may give the banks a little bit more money to boost up their capital. You do whatever you can do to make local society a little bit better. But there's not anything you can do on the national level by acting locally. But you can always, alleviate a little bit of pain and suffering, take care of yourself a little bit better, and find something good and productive to do. Because that's what makes a good society, not the government. And so that's the only real thing we can work on, I think. Yes?
And the other local thing is maybe what would be a libertarian strategy of trying to make a dent in something like an LA political machine, at the city government level. Maybe that's a hard one to crack, but what kind of strategy maybe should the party go after certain cities that have more opportunity?
I've had this Machiavellian scheme. We're not up to this level yet. But when you get up to 5 or 6%, then you make deals. Because there'll be some district where if we could swing our 5 or 6% to the Republican candidate for state representative, they wouldn't run anybody against us for city council in Santa Clara. So that you can boost your effect up by leveraging the political power you have. And that's what small parties do all over Europe, where small parties who are maybe 5 times as big as we are really have some kind of say in government. But you have to have a bigger party before you can do it. So that the first job of the party to be more effective is to be bigger. So